I guess it's time we talk all things July and maybe what I hope to read in August. Katie here with another video. I'm Katie obviously, and these are just some of the books that I own, and I'm here to talk to you about what I read in July and what I hope to read in August. So the first book I picked up was The 20 by Sam Holland. This was an immediate 5-star rating and a perfect way to start the month. The 20 actually follows a series of unalive-ins starting from 20, and the clock is on to see if they can get them down to 0. That is obviously the job then of the major crime team to do this. This is the second book after The Echo Man, and The Echo Man also got 5 stars from me. This was amazing, and I'm not gonna lie, the epilogue in this honestly had me wanting to pick up The Puppet Master straight away, so you will see that later in this video. But oh my goodness, this was fast and pacey, and I just did not want to put it down, but I had to go to work. It did take me a week to read with my working hours that week, but oh my goodness, this series is something to behold. But this was a perfect way to start the month of July. My first audio pick of July was This Winter by Alice Oseman. This is a novella and therefore took me all of an hour to listen to. I listened to it while I got ready for work, walked to work, and it was done. So by the 1st of July, I had listened to my first and completed my first read. That being said, I only rated it 3 stars. To be quite honest with you, recording this at the end of the July, I can't even remember what the book was about. I just think it was a novella and it wasn't necessarily necessary, but yeah, it was a quick and easy listen. It was on my TBR, so I have ticked it off. So yeah, it was a 3-star. It wasn't bad. It was a quick and easy read, but I just don't think it brought much to the Alice Oseman collection. Next up was the book club pick for July. So I'm part of a book club known as the Book Talk After Dark Book Club. They are over on TikTok and Instagram, so please go and give them a follow if you're on those platforms. And our pick was Strange Sally Diamond by Liz Nugent. So we read this over 4 Mondays, and oh my goodness did I want to pick it up. I rated it 4 stars, however. The only reason it dropped a star for me was the ending. I found the ending very underwhelming and very unanswered. So this follows Sally Diamond, who has been through quite a bit of a family trauma. And yeah, I would probably check trigger warnings for this. There might not be many, but I feel like it could hit certain people, depending on obviously your own past. But it follows Sally as we try to figure out what happened in her past. It is a dual point of view book, and it follows Sally and Peter. We don't actually know who Peter is at the beginning, but we do later find that out. So I'm not going to tell you who Peter is because it just makes the book more interesting. But Peter talks from in the past tense and then into the present day, so his timeline sort of brings us up to answering all of your questions. However, at the end of this book, they put in a bit of a, in the epilogue, kind of put in a bit of a thing that had me asking questions and there was no answer. And in the US, there is actually an extra chapter before the epilogue, which still didn't answer your questions, but it would have been nice to have been in the UK version, but still nonetheless a really good read for July. Next up was the second audiobook I picked up, which happened to be right at the beginning of July, and that is Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. This was a 4-star rating for me. This actually follows someone who is sat in a coma, and she's talking to everyone. They can't hear her. She can hear everyone else though. Things keep happening in this, and the whole point of the book is just to figure out what's going wrong. I did rate His and Hers 5 stars, and that was my first Alice Feeney read. That being said, didn't enjoy this as much, but still a good book, and I'm still excited to pick up the other Alice Feeney books that I own, and they are on my TBR. But yeah, it was a 4-star read, but yeah, there were twists and turns in this, but I just think it went a bit slow in the middle for me for a thriller, which is why it dropped the star. That being said, I don't know if it would be a different experience for me reading it rather than listening to it on audio, but still a really good read nonetheless, and yeah, another book ticks off the list for July. Next up, as I've previously mentioned, was The Puppet Master by Sam Holland. I did only rate this 4 stars. This is definitely my least favourite, but I think that is purely down to the fact that this has more character development than the other 2 books. I do strongly advise that you read The Echo Man and The 20 before you pick up The Puppet Master, purely because this is the 2 teams from the 2 previous books connected together to solve a series of, suicides, which is a bit of a weird one, as they don't actually believe the people committed suicide on their own accord. So yeah, it brings the 2 teams together. It doesn't answer your question to the 20 until about halfway through, which is like a whoa, because I literally picked up this thinking I need to know. But yeah, still a really, really good read. Absolutely recommend this series, and I still enjoyed it. I actually came to the end of it and actually really enjoyed reading the character development, but I think because the other 2 have been so fast-paced and twisty, it just didn't feel as good as the others, and probably because it was on the back of that series, I compared it to that rather than a general crime thriller. Now, for the last few months, I've been doing a bit of a nostalgic read along with This Tash Reads over on Book Talk, and we have been reading a childhood classic, and that is the Girls in Love series. We are on to book 3 in July, and that is Girls Out Late. I rated this 4 stars. I found this to be quite a dramatic read for a teenage book. Jacqueline Wilson covers so many different topics, but this covers As the Girls Are Out Late, as the title explains, but it's just not as simple as that. A reminder in this book, the girls are only like 12, 13 years old. When I was 12, 13, I wouldn't dare do some of the stuff these girls are doing. And I just found it such an interesting read because this was actually written around the time I was probably maybe 5-year-old. But that being said, I wouldn't dream of doing things like this. So it just shows how things have changed. And reading this from an adult's point of view is actually quite interesting. From a child's point of view, you probably think, oh, they're well cool. But from an adult's point of view, you're thinking, good God, are they stupid? But it makes the book a completely different read, and I have actually really enjoyed reading this. I will be picking up the last one of this in August, which I will come on to later. Next up was an ARC I received from Storm Publishing, and that was Textbook Romance. This actually released at the end of the month, and I actually really enjoyed it, but it was a 4-star rating for me. The chapters were a little bit long. For context, it follows 2 adults, one who is 43 and one who is in their 20s, as they meet in a school as Jack decides to become a TA/teacher on a bit of a supply basis, and yeah, they end up falling for each other after the 43-year-old woman decides to come out of her marriage after finding out that her husband has cheated. Obviously this comes with complications. It is an age gap romance, it is appropriate. Just for me, in each chapter there were both points of view, and I would rather have each point of view per chapter. It just breaks up the book a bit more. So if you're like me that can only sometimes pick it up, if you look at a 16-minute chapter but you only want to read for 10 minutes, it kind of puts you off reading the book. But it was still a really enjoyable romance, and I would still absolutely recommend it. My next audiobook of July was If We Were Perfect by Ana Huang, and I rated this 4 stars. This finishes off the series for me. So this is part of the If Love series, and I've listened to all of these on audio. It follows 2 people, and it is like they've come from like a previous relationship many years ago, and it was a bit of a fling, and they end up meeting up again, and yeah, it sort of becomes a bit of a, I don't know how to explain it really, but it is a really lovely story. I found it really like calming to listen to. There is a little bit of smut in it. But yeah, it was an enjoyable read because I actually read this at one of the most stressful times of the school year for me, when my workload was at its highest, and it just really knuckled me down to be productive. It calmed me back down to have a clear head. So I actually would really recommend these in audio. They're really good listens, and yeah, it is another series of Ana Huang's ticked off. All I have left now is the King of Sing series, so if you think that I need to read that, please let me know in the comments. But that was another 4-star read, and I think a nice completed series. Next up was another ARC that I read this month, and that was the Hardwick Heath Killer. This actually released before Textbook Romance, but I was feeling a bit of a sort of soft romance read, and so I came back to Hardwick Heath Killer. I did rate this 4 stars. It is actually a really good crime, and it follows a series of unalivings, and they're not sure if they're connected or not, and yeah, it is a bit of a weird one. I found it a bit creepy, a bit not, you know what I'm trying to explain. But yeah, it was a really good read. It took me like a day or 2 to read. It is quick and easy, and just another really good ARC, to be fair, and that has now released, and I do believe it is also available on Kindle Unlimited. Next up, I'd been staring at these on my bookshelf. I don't know what made me want to pick them up, but I dipped into the dark romance world, and that was Hooked by Emily McIntyre. This is the Never After series, and this is the Peter Pan like remaking, and it is dark romance. I inhaled this in a day and rated it 5 stars. It follows 2 characters, and it's a very dark world, a very violent world. So you've got like your innocent girl and then your bad man, effectively. And yeah, I absolutely loved this relationship. It is smutty, that is your warning. But it was so dark, the plot was really good, I was hooked on it, excuse the pun, and it was just a really enjoyable read, to the point that I wanted to pick up the next book straight away. They're not remotely connected, you can read them in any order. I am reading them in the order on Goodreads, however, again, they are standalones, but it just made me think, gosh, these are good books, and I just really wanted to pick this up. So this was a really enjoyable read, and has definitely made me sort of branch out that little bit more. That obviously leads me straight on to Scarred. I am actually off work now for quite some time, and it meant that I'd read Hooked on like day 1 of the school holidays, so day 2 I picked up Scarred and I read this within 2 days. This, however, was only a 4-star read. Compared to Hooked, it just didn't pull me in as much. So Scarred is actually the Lion King retelling, so it follows a woman as she comes to marry the king in this particular kingdom, and it is actually her brother that she ends up falling, well, his brother, sorry, that she ends up falling for. It's a bit of a forbidden romance kind of vibe, but again, full of drama. This one didn't kick off straight away with drama, which I think is why I dropped the star. But that being said, about halfway in, I did not put it down and I inhaled the last half in like one sitting. Another book I would absolutely recommend, and I absolutely am in love with this series, but I am taking a break to try and tackle some of my other TBR. Now, my last audiobook of the month was Michael McIntyre, It's a Funny Life. I just wanted something light-hearted to listen to. I've taken up Diamond Art while I'm off work, and it's just something a bit relaxing. It's helping me with my healthy eating because it's stopping me from wanting to snack because I get so lost in it. So therefore, that is why I am picking up more audiobooks. I don't actually rate autobiographies because it is that person's own work. So that is why I don't rate it. But it was such a, not even a fully light-hearted read. There is quite a lot of his life that people probably don't know about, but it really does highlight the key like difficulties in getting into the comedy world, and that even for somebody like Michael McIntyre, who is as big as he is now, didn't have it that easy at the beginning. So yeah, it was a really nice, quick, easy read. It's about 9 hours long on audio, and yeah, it was such an enjoyable read. I really did enjoy it. And I would recommend, if you want a bit of a light-hearted listen while you're busy doing jobs, I would definitely pick up Michael McIntyre. So it seems July was the month of arcs for me. So the next arc I picked up was Playing for Keeps by Brie Hayden. This follows a girl as she moves universities to get away from her ex-footballer boyfriend, and has sworn off boyfriend men. Q, the guy that comes in and decides that he's going to cause chaos. And as sort of the resident, I can't think what they called her. They called her an RA for like the abbreviation, but basically she lives in the halls and has to make sure that they behave themselves. She deals with noise complaints, etc. And she ends up becoming the babysitter for Adam. So it's Adam and Piper. This book, though, was 640 pages. That immediately dropped a star for me, and it put me down to a 4-star read. The romance book was really good. The chapters were short. It was dual point of view. The massive red flag for me was that nowhere can you find this book. Like, it doesn't tell you the page numbers. I could only find it on Goodreads. The pages numbers were absolutely nowhere. I have not had to give any personal information for this, so I'm not too alarmed in that sense. However, it's now released. It released on July 30th, but I've still not seen it come out on Amazon. I haven't seen it in any stores, and I have been book shopping since that date. And yeah, I don't know. It was an enjoyable read. I have done a review and I have tagged the author on Instagram. But yeah, a really good book. Way too many pages in my opinion. Could have dropped about 100 of them, but still a really good romance. I've got to admit, I did enjoy the book more. Just that little red flag. My last arc of the month, which released on the 1st of August, and was probably the highlight of my month by far, and that was Witness 8 by Steve Kavanagh. Obviously, I previously posted a video on all the Steve Kavanagh books that I absolutely adore, and I have since read another one of his books, and that is Witness 8. I am a huge Steve Kavanagh fan. As you can imagine, this was a 5-star read for me. It was potentially a 4, but it did rise to a 5 later on. And honestly, this follows a quiet neighbourhood where one of the residents is unalived, and there is a witness that sees everything happen. Later on, they are referred to as Witness 8. However, Witness 8 does not go forward to the police. Of course, that would make a very simple crime, wouldn't it? No, what this witness does is absolutely bizarre. It is creepy. It is a completely different style that I'm used to with the Eddie Flynn series. And yeah, honestly, I so enjoyed this book. I fangirled over this book. I nearly cried. Now, if you have read the Eddie Flynn series like I have, you will understand when you read Witness 8 why you are going to get emotional in this book. If you don't read the books in order, you probably won't hit as much as it did me, as I have read the books and gone with the character development. But oh my goodness, that book had me in absolute just awe. I inhaled it in just over a day. Had I not had cute nephew cuddles, I probably would have finished it within about 3 or 4 hours of picking it up. It was a good read. It was very Steve Kavanagh style, bar the change in the character, which I absolutely adored. It was the perfect book, like, to just hype over. I am meeting Steve Kavanagh as well, so I will probably try and do a bit of a blog on that, but it will be a shorter one. but oh my goodness, I am so excited, and yeah, a perfect way. Just a shame now I have to wait another 12 months for his next book to come out. Having wanted Witness 8 to be my 100th book of the year, yes, I have hit 100 books. That was my goal. I can't believe I've done it so quickly. I actually ended up having time for the last book of July, and that was Firstborn by Will Dean. So this was actually picked up from my local library. I'm doing a bit of a tour of all the libraries within my council while I'm off work, and so I went to a different library and I saw this. I actually read this in about a day or two and I really enjoyed it. It was a 4-star read. It wasn't as quick paced. Halfway through this book, the bomb dropped. Wow. The twist in this, I actually had to go back and turn it around again because I was like, what? I had absolutely no clue what was going on. So for a little context, this follows a twin as her other twin is unalived, and she travels over to New York to find out what's gone on and to find out who did it. Obviously it's not as simple as that. It's New York. Molly is quite a quirky character, but the plot twists in this, wow. I was absolutely gobsmacked and absolutely enjoyed the end of this book to no end. I had to go back at one point because I realised what the plot twist was, because I was just reading it quite calmly and then I was like, wait, what? Did I just read that right? Because I did not expect that at all. I haven't actually seen this book anywhere and it was such an enjoyable read and would absolutely recommend you pick it up. So that confirms my July wrap up. I read 7 physical, I think 5 ARCs and 4 somewhere around audiobooks. I did read a total of 15 books this month through audio, ARCs and physical, and yeah, it was such a good wrap up, and I didn't honestly believe that I'd read so much this month, but I think having the first week off just really upped my reading goal. So let's talk about my August hopefuls. Now, I don't normally do this because I am very much a mood reader. However, because I'm off work, I know I'm going to smash out a few books because I love getting lost in a book. So I know for a fact the first book I'm going to pick up in August is Brain Damage by Freida McFadden. I do actually want to finish Freida McFadden's collection and do a bit of a rating of all of her books. So I do know I have Brain Damage, The Surrogate Mother, Do You Want to Know a Secret, The Ex, Dead Med, and I think there's a couple more. I will put them all up here so that you can see which Freida McFadden books I intend to read in August. I know that looks like a lot, but I can inhale Freida in a day if I have no other plans, especially if they're a good read, but I just want to complete her collection of books, and with them all being on Kindle Unlimited, it just makes it so easy to do, and I have read a good chunk of those already. Next up is what I've already started listening to on audio, and that is The Maid by Nita Prowse. I have had this sat on my TBR for quite a while. I picked the book up when it was hyped, but never actually got around to reading it. So as it has come available on Libby and has been on hold for about 3 or 4 weeks now, and has become available, I have already picked that up and I am looking forward to listening to that. I am very much trying to tackle my TBR in any means possible as it is getting a little bit out of control. But yeah, that is the first audiobook I will pick up. I'm not really sure on the other audiobooks I'll pick up this month. It just very much goes on my mood, what is available in Libby, which at the minute none of my TBR is, so it might be a case of I'm picking up books that aren't necessarily on my TBR, so that's just a bit of exploration I'll need to do. Now, obviously there is book club this month, and this month's pick is Remarkably Bright Creatures. I haven't heard anything about this in such apart from good things. I haven't read up on it. I have just picked it up because it is the book club pick and it was cheap as chips on Amazon. So yeah, that will be August's pick, and I'm very much excited to pick that up and see how it goes. I have also got one more book out of the library this month, and that is the volume 5 of Heartstopper. Obviously that goes without saying, it is a graphic novel. It will take me no time at all to read it, and will probably, as much as it goes towards my reading goal, will probably take me less than a day to read. I have read the other 4 from out of the library and I really enjoy the story and have gone on to watch the series on Netflix, so I am very excited to pick up the graphic novel and see where this is going. As I mentioned in my July wrap-up, we are still continuing on with the nostalgic read-along, so I will be picking up the last of the Girls in Love series, and that is Girls in Tears. I will be picking that up towards the beginning of the month. Again, it is less than it's about 200 pages long. It won't take me long to read. The text is big, it is a children's book, and that will just bring me on nicely for September when Think Again comes out by Jacqueline Wilson. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to pick it up straight away yet, so yeah, hopefully we will see how that goes. But yeah, that is another book I'll be picking up this month. I have one ARC that is due at the beginning of August, so that will be my second physical of the month, and that is The Last Time We Met. It releases on the 6th of August, so obviously I'm going to have to read that before August. There is a second potential ARC as well, and that is The Reunion by MJ Arledge. those that know will know I'm a massive fan of MJ Allard, and I'm very, very excited to try and just pick up another of his books. It isn't part of the Helen Grey series, so I am free to pick that up before I finish the series. But yeah, super excited to have an arc by him, and I want to try and get that read before the end of August, as it does come out early September and I will be back at work and reading a lot less by then. And lastly, this isn't necessarily part of my hopefuls, but I might potentially try and pick it up depending on the volume of books I am obviously reading, and that is the last in the ACOTAR series. So I still have got A Court of Silver Flames to read, and I'm very, very excited to need to pick that up. However, it is a massive book and I need to have the time to commit to that. It might be that I need to do a readathon. It might be that I try and pick that up bank holiday weekend when I've got a bit more time on my hands, or when my other half is picking up some extra hours. I don't know, but I do want to try and pick that up. But it is a beast of a book, and yeah, I just hope I can get it read, because otherwise I ain't going to be picking that up till October, because I need time to commit to it, and when I'm working I do not have time to commit to a book like that. I think that's a fair amount of books to talk about for August. Obviously I could read more, I could read less, who knows. But yeah, they're the main books I want to pick up in August. So it'll be interesting in my August wrap up to see if that has actually happened and if that is the case. I am also away the last week of August, and as much as I'm taking a couple of books with me, I do not intend to spend the whole week reading, as it is a bit of a going out and experiencing things holiday. But yeah, that is all of July's wrapped up, August's TBR. But yeah, let me know in the comments how much you read in July, what you read, your favourite read, and if you have read any of the books I've read at all, and yeah, any other recommendations, send them my way. And as always, like and subscribe, and thank you again for watching.